What's up, listeners, and welcome back to Shattering Superstructure. On this episode, we have the great Don Lake, character actor, comedian, and Second City improv legend. We discuss his career, some of his most recent guest spots, including the upcoming TED series with Seth MacFarlane, which is going to be outstanding. Love that universe. Love the first two films, and it's going to be great to see it in a series format. And we talk about the nature of streaming and how vast it's become, and the effect that that might have on certain TV shows and what we now call content. We used to call it art. Now it's content, for better or for worse. Don's a friend of mine. I'm friends with his son Taylor, and he's just an all-around great guy and salt of the earth. And this is one of my favorite conversations I think I've ever had with a member of the entertainment industry. So I hope you enjoy, and without further ado, here's the episode.
Hey, Alex.
There he is. How's it going, Don?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
You got a good wall happening there.
Thanks. Yeah, this is some of my wall art. Got the Royal Tenenbaums, Logan, Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, nice. Oh, those are great. Look at your wall and then look at me. We're the exact opposite. I'm in an institution at the moment.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't let you bring artwork in there. It's too
Right.
bad.
Or I'm in a place that I've got to get out of quick as soon as the phone rings. Leave. Just get out.
Well, at least you got a wall to work on there.
Yeah.
I've nearly run out of wall space.
Oh, it's good. It looks good.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got you front and center on TV.
Oh. Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
Found a nice little image to pause on. Space.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Netflix
Oh,
series.
bless your heart. It's nice seeing that picture of Ben. He's so great. They were such a great group.
Yeah, it really is. It's talk about a hell of a cast and just amazing writing, amazing directing, and what a fun idea too. I mean, I wish I had come up with it, or it's one of those ideas,
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. And then you look at it's like, yeah, just live 2 years, 2 seasons, and that's it, and you go, man.
I know. I don't really understand why it seems like a trend, Netflix, to end after 2 seasons, like really good shows like the OA. Like they just pulled the plug on that right when it was like in its prime.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some of it has to do with they're scaling back on like bigger budget projects, and trying to do like smaller to medium size budget, I guess. So I don't know, budget allocation.
Yeah. And I know that show, I know Space Force was expensive. They threw a lot of money. They almost gave them a blank check the first season, which maybe you didn't need, but it was just when we kind of circled the wagons in the second season, and it's like, okay, this is what it's about. This is the camaraderie and all that stuff. And I don't know if it's a weird world that we live in now, right? In the entertainment business, it's like that word algorithms again, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, you didn't meet your algorithms, and it's not an emotional cut. It's just sorry, didn't meet the algorithm numbers, and it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah, and it's not TV or film anymore. It's like content.
Right.
It's like, well, if you look at it as content, it's an interesting way to view art.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
How's Claire? How's the rest of the family, Taylor and everyone?
Oh, everyone's super. Everyone's great. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, Taylor has and his wife Quincy have two daughters. So
Yeah.
we have grandkids, right?
Right.
So yeah, so it's fantastic. I mean, that's what we were doing this morning, almost in 20 minutes until you called. And it's like that's what I was doing, is just playing with the oldest one. And I was saying my wife was going, "Did you get tired?" And I said, "No, you know what? It's like an improv. It's like a few hours of improv with her because kids just live in their imagination, right?
Right.
And so you literally don't need anything. And we were all over the map today. I mean, we went to the zoo. We were pretending what a day like was going to school. And then she was picking me up because she was my mom and all the things. What are you going to wear to school? And it's so fun. And so I love it. And you just love watching their little minds work. They're so open and free and connected in the moment, right? Like I see her making up songs and I know that it's literally whatever her eye is landing on and she incorporates it. And she's a character anyway. She's really funny. She's
Oh,
really funny. So it's a treat.
that's
So
oh, that's so cool. Congratulations to my parents or grandparents, and they feel the exact same way. They absolutely love it. They can't stop visiting my sister in Texas. I think the
that's great.
first time I was an uncle was 19, and
Wow.
I mean my oldest niece is 15.
Wow.
So in the next like 10, 15 years, I could be a great uncle.
Yeah. Yeah, you could actually. You could. But
Yeah.
it really is. And you would hear things like, "Oh, you're going to love being a grandparent." It's like I kind of figured I would, and it hasn't let me down. It's been even more than I imagined. It's tremendous.
It's great. And you're still living in Calabasas?
Yeah, yeah. We kind of split our time between Calabasas and Carpentria, so
Nice.
that's where I am now, is in Carpentria. So
Carpentry.
it's it's beautiful here, but we can be closer to Quincy and Taylor and the girls. So that's why we spend a lot. And Carpentria is like this little 1960s beach, Southern California beach town that never changed. Have
Wow.
you ever been there?
I've never heard of it.
Oh,
No.
it's about 20 minutes south of Santa Barbara.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, so I highly recommend it if you ever want to, drive out of the city and come here. And it's a beautiful little quaint main street. And honest to God, it's like out of the 1960s, and it's got candy stores and these great little shops, great little restaurants. It's really a treat. We've always loved it here, and so it's funny to kind of be back because it's very special, and we're like 6 minute walk from the beach. So, and then
Oh,
when it gets, when it's 107 in Calabasas, right? It's like 74 here. I mean, it rarely, once in a while, it'll creep into the low 80s once in a while. So
yeah.
it's nice.
You get that nice sea breeze.
Oh, big time, big time.
Weather's
And
the yeah, weather's the hot spots coming in.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, that kind of reminds me of like if Healdsburg were a beach town or something like that, because there's a lot of kind of those little towns in Sonoma and Napa that seem to have those like little candy stores,
yeah,
like frozen in time. So
exactly. And they want, and it's wild too, because they want to keep it that way, right? They don't
yes,
want you, don't spread the word. Don't tell anyone it's nice here. Just
right,
quiet. Quiet.
right. Keep
Yeah.
it on the
And then
down.
it's so weird when you drive into work, it's so weird because it's only an hour from Calabasas. And so like say another hour and a half if you go into work and that, but it's just like, wow, I was just here and now I'm just here. It freaks your mind out a little bit,
Yeah, no
you
kidding.
know?
I can certainly
Yeah.
relate to that. Going back and forth between like San Francisco, San Mateo, and the wine country where my brother lives. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
three different worlds.
yeah. That's cool. But
Oh,
look at how's your podcast doing? How's it going?
it's going well. I've had some really great guests. I'm fortunate to, you know, have made some good relationships with
Yeah.
some PR friends. So
Oh,
it's
that's
it's
great.
awesome. I'm you know uh I think some of my most recent guests were Freddie Prinze Jr. and Zach Braff and Mary Herron, the director of American Psycho. So I mean, it's been fascinating to have somewhat longer conversations with these brilliant artists, and
well, you really did it the right way, didn't you? I mean, you really cultivated kind of a nice little family of people that you went out to, right? Family's not the right word, but you cultivated all your sources, and you know, you've grown, and now you can incorporate them in and new people, and that's great. That's tremendous, because wow, it's quite a field of podcasts out there, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's like the Wild West. There's so many.
Right.
But I feel like it's either at the time or at, slightly after the time when like blogs were just starting or had
Right.
been out for a while, and they're starting to like boom, and podcasts are kind of like the new blogs,
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember staying at your house in Calabasas with the boys. That was a memorable trip. So much fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Still,
Yeah.
so gracious that you hosted all of us. I know that couldn't have
Sure.
been easy. We're a handful. We
No,
tried to be on our best behavior.
No, that was good. I love stuff like that. I love your energy, your youthfulness rubs off on us. It's like, we steal some of it. It's like we get to charge the batteries, right?
Yeah. No kidding. I remember, the dinner was amazing. I remember the backyard. I loved the backyard. It was so beautifully landscaped, and it had a lot of character. And the place we stayed at, I guess you would call it an in-law unit, or just like a back area.
Right.
Which I could imagine was a fun place for like Taylor to hang out growing up.
Oh, fantastic. Are you kidding? Fantastic. I loved hanging out there.
Yeah.
I'd go up there, with a beer and watch the hockey game. And it was like, you just kick back.
Yeah.
Because it was like a little cottage,
Right.
And so you really felt like you were really just off somewhere. And that's what we loved about it. And Claire designed the whole thing. It was all her vision and stuff. And it was just beautiful. But yeah, we loved it. That was a good spot, because that was a really good spot.
Oh yeah, that's amazing that she designed it. Yeah, it's like a moment of respite, just to,
yeah. And you could have the TV as loud as you want. It doesn't matter, Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. And what a cool, it was a cool neighborhood it's kind of the first time I've seen like, oh, there's, besides a wine country, like there's horses down the street in a residential neighborhood. Like this is kind of an anomaly.
And I love the sound of the horses' hooves on the pavement, kind of when they go up the street. I love that sound, the clip cloppity stuff. Oh, I love it. And some of the horses are so beautiful. But it reminded me a lot of Canada. There was a rustic feel to it. Yet look where we were. We were 40 minutes from downtown LA. Yet you got up there and you just escaped. And over the years, it's been a place for baseball players and football players and actors and stuff like that. It's just once you drive through the gate, it's just everything disappears, and that's what I love. So yeah, it was. I remember one time we were leaving and to go somewhere, and there were just these two horses walking down the street, and it was like, okay, this is weird. Some people, they don't close the gate and the dog gets out.
Right.
Where we are, it's like you don't close the gate and the horses get out. And so it's like, what are we going to do? Bring this home? Bring this beautiful horse home? And we had knocked down the stables to put up the guest house, right? Mm-hmm. So because originally when we got a place, it had these stables with it, which were kind of funky cool, and I always scared the people owning in. They said, "Oh, you're going to raise horses, right?" And I said, "No, I'm going to raise donkeys." What? And man, they didn't like that. But of course, I was just kidding. But I didn't tell them, no, we're going to level the stable and put up a guest house.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. But that's what we see kind of what we did. That was our plan. And then we built the guest house, and when the guest house was done, then as a family we moved into that, and then we built the house. And so we stayed for like 14 months in the guest house, all of us.
Oh, wow.
And that to me was like the Apollo. It felt like an Apollo space mission, because the guest house was, to me, was like the LEM. So we were all, we were all in that tiny module. And it's just, remember, everything's got to go back where you put it. You can't leave things hanging out. But it was such a great time because we were all together and so close, right?
Right.
So it was a really great time in our family history, I think. And then it all worked out, and things usually don't, but it all worked out that, okay, house is done, we can move into the house. And then the guest house became this, like we say, this little world unto its own.
I love that. That sounds idyllic and fun, like an extended sleepover with friends, except you're with your family.
Yeah. It really is a luxury to have it, because you don't worry about if somebody's coming into town. It's like, yeah, sure, just go there, just go there. We won't even know you're there. It's fine.
Totally. My parents are doing the same thing with their garage, turning it into an ADU unit. And so
that's great.
They're just, whenever anyone visits from across, we're all of our siblings are scattered across the country. So if anyone says, hey, I'm visiting, and they've got something to anchor.
So makes it easy.
I saw Ghosts. I've been watching it actually since the first season, and I saw your guest episode. That's it was really funny, and you were obviously typically great in it. It's I have not seen the BBC show, but I do like the American show. So I mean, what was it like, sort of coming on there for a guest spot? Rose and Utkarsh seem like they are really funny people in real life, not just actors. So I assume that was a fun set.
A really nice set. A really, really nice set. It's been so lucky to have jobs like that. They're all so nice and so generous, and they're really talented too. The writing on that show is really good. It's quite imaginative, because they've got this great device, and I really love how they paced it out and slow. Like they kind of, I'm not going to say what they did, but it's like just that first year was like everybody fell in love with it, and then I love how in the second year they kind of, okay, let's peel the onion a bit now. Let's start dealing with flashbacks and things like that, and it's really tremendous. I know every week when I kind of see what the rundown is for another episode, I just kind of go, wow, okay, that's clever. Yeah, you guys are really, and people love the show, but everyone's so likable, and the characters are also strong.
So strong and well developed.
And so different, right? So definite, so different from each other. Right? Being ghosts from different times. And they were all very, very open and happy for me to be there, and I was so happy to be there too. And now, of course, I can't remember who my wife was in that, and that's terrible because she's Second City. Oh, that's horrifying.
I'm blanking on it too, but that's, oh man.
Tina. No, I was going to say Tina Fey. Tina Fey. Megan. Maybe it's Megan Fey. Man.
Huh.
This is what it's like having an interview with an older guy now, right? Who was that? She was so nice. No, anyway, she's a legend in Second City, and we've never had a chance in all these years to work. Megan Fey.
Okay, Megan Fey. Yeah.
We'd never had a chance to work together, so we got to be husband and wife in this. So that was another treat. And they shoot it in Montreal.
Oh, nice. Back to
Canada. I know. So that's weird too. Great for them, because that's a great city to shoot in, and they started their season early, I guess to avoid the cold winters. You know what I mean? They wanted to be done before the winter hit. But they did it right, and I wish them all the best. They'll be doing that for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, hopefully. And it's like, speaking of Canada, they're killing it right now. It seems like so many shows are shot there. First thing that comes to mind is The Boys on Amazon Prime, which is like one of the biggest hits, I think, in the last, 5-10 years,
Yeah.
in terms of that genre.
Yeah.
To really turn that genre on its head. But
Yeah.
so many other projects in Canada, and they can.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty
Yeah.
wild that they do that. I know the exchange rate's great, and I'm sure they're given a ton of incentives from the government to shoot there.
Yeah.
But I think Toronto's all booked up, and Vancouver's certainly booked up. But people are shooting in places like, well, Calgary has been for a while, but it's getting real. Like in Ontario, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's like these small cities, like I don't know, 3 hours north of Toronto, like Thunder Bay and places like that they're shooting in, and you're just going, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. Everybody's got to be flown in for that. I can't imagine you couldn't put a crew together in Thunder Bay.
Sure.
Maybe if you're going on a hunting excursion, you could, but not to shoot not to shoot something. But yeah, that there's it's quite a time because there's so much production being shot
Yeah.
all over the place. But it's rare that you work in LA very often. I mean, my last two jobs have been in here, but usually you're flying off somewhere. So it's interesting time.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sort of versatility of the geography and the climate of Canada makes it so, like, you can make it seem like almost anywhere in the world. That's
Anywhere.
I think the
Yeah.
combination of that and what you're saying,
Yeah.
from the financial benefits, it's, yeah, kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you said you shot 2 projects recently in Los Angeles. Was one of those Gina Rodriguez's
Yeah.
Not Dead Yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you were another guest star on that. And yeah, it's like, is this kind of like a day thing when you guest star on shows, like you're in and you're out in a day, or do you get an opportunity to bond with the cast and crew, or is a little bit of both?
Usually it'd be like a few days, right? Even if it's like the thing I love about a single camera show is that you could have 3 or 4 scenes in the show, have a really nice part, but obviously for production wise, they will try to schedule all those shows if they can. It's based on location, all those scenes in on the same day or 1 or 2 days. Sometimes you'll be on something, an episodic show for 3 days, sometimes 4. Like I did a thing before Christmas. It hasn't aired yet. It was actually last fall we did it. And it was a thrill for me to do Ted, the new series that Seth MacFarlane's doing.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's going to be out on Pageant, not Peacock, this summer, I believe. I think it's June or July. I'm not quite sure, but we did this last fall, right? And it was a guest spot, but I was there several days, and it was so much fun for me. I'm such a fan of him. He's just so tremendous, and it was a great part. I got to sing. It was just a real loser of a guy who dreamt of being big on Broadway, and he's just a security guard, and it was so fun. And the first day I got there, of course, it's Seth MacFarlane, who I'm such a fan of, such a fan of his work. And so we ran it a few times, and he directs them, right? And then of course he's the voice of Ted. So he's not, you do the scene. They have an elaborate ways they do it, which are kind of simple yet elaborate, if that can make sense. But you have like the Ted doll that'll be there, but who you'll look at and stuff. And then Seth will be off to the side, and he's got like 4 monitors he's looking at of his 4 shots. He's got the microphone so he can be Ted. And he's acting away, and he's looking at this 4 screens while he's doing the take. And it's just really, I tip my hat to him. It's very cool. And the script was really funny. So I had a ride, and he, when I got there, he said, Don, we'll do it again. It was all fun. And he said, just so you know, this is not an Aaron Sorkin script. So I'm familiar with your resume. That's all I'm going to say. And I just went, oh, I'm dreaming this. And he laughed. And then from that point on, honestly, it was just a love affair because we were improvising, and the other cast members were so great. And of course, they were the regulars were great at improvising too. So we all had, it was just so much fun for me, so much fun. And that was a thing where after the 3 or 4 days, the crew really did, the crew was, saying nicknames for you and stuff like that. It was one of the best. I said at the end of that week, I said, if I don't do anything else, that's fine. That's why I can end on that. I'll end on that. I'll punch my card now.
Yeah, I'll end on Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, end on that, and the improvising with him and having fun and making him laugh, and him, just driving me to the brink of cracking, and seeing the gleam in his eye when you almost get one on him. It was so fun, and the cast were great too. A young cast who were so talented. I didn't meet them all, but I'm looking forward to that. But that's that's the weird thing too of streaming now as well. It's kind of like everything's a movie where you'd shoot a movie and then a year later it would come out.
Yeah.
That's the way streaming is. It's like with all these shows, you do it and then, it's a year, they got to finish, they got to edit them all. Production wise, they got to finish them all up and then they've got to do all the languages and it all takes almost a year before it comes out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's wild. You don't get that feedback kind of from, not like regular broadcast TV, like Ghosts or something, where you do it 3 weeks later it airs, and also too on Not Dead Yet, Gina Rodriguez is fantastic.
Yeah, she
really is. She really is not only a lovely person, but super talented and so nice and so fun to work with. And yeah, she's great. She's great.
Yeah, and versatility too. She doesn't just do comedy. She's done a lot of great drama. I'm thinking like Annihilation, the Starlin movie. She was just kind of heartbreaking in that.
Yeah.
But so many. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, she's just so honest, and so genuine.
Yeah.
As an actress too, so real and believable. But wow. I was so impressed. It was effortless to do scenes with her, just effortless. But yeah, so that was an LA job, and then Seth was too. So
wow,
yeah.
Well, you might get called up from the bullpen to voice some Family Guy characters. You never know after working with Seth. He likes.
I hope so. We had a nice on the final day at the final shot. I said, thank you so much. This was a dream like for me. And he said, oh, this is not the end. There'll be more.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, it was a good way to leave it too. So we'll see. You never, you don't think about it. You just go, you do a really good job and you hope you'll be back or whatever. And so we'll see.
Yeah. And you mentioned you, Gina Rodriguez, Seth MacFarlane, I think so many comedic actors are so good at drama. I'm wondering why that is. And there's even a further connection of people who started in improv who are now like these really revered dramatic actors, like Bob Odenkirk and so many people who switch, kind of to the prestige drama and do it so well. Why do you think that is? What about improv and perhaps maybe stand-up comedy gives
I think
that
I think it's,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I shouldn't have started. I should let you finish. I apologize. When you mentioned like the difference between stand-up and the improv, I think the thing with stand-up is that it just forces you to be in the moment. You know what I mean? So when it does come to a drama, like actually that's what I loved about the TED part was like there was actually a part where I was very, very sad in that, emotionally sad. And you want to do it again and again and again and again. It's just so fun to play that emotion. A lot of times, you don't get a character that's got all that stuff to play. And so when you do, and it's just again being like genuine and real. And like I say, in the moment, because you just, you try to listen to those words you're saying. And I always find the best thing to do is nothing, believe it or not, in those genuine moments. Just be just genuine, be honest. It's all there. It's there in the words. Do little. And that's coming from a guy who started mugging mugging everything. I was like bigger than a cartoon. And just slowly over the years, you just keep pulling back. And I guess for me, it always felt like, oh, I'm not earning my money. If I'm not being like this, I'm not earning my keep. But it's like, because I'd always watch some of these guys sometimes, right? These big dramatic actors, and I'm going, my God, he's just walking through this. I mean, I want to work up a sweat for you guys because you're paying me to do that. And it's like, no, just, less is more. Just don't do anything. The camera's picking up everything. Just be you, just be real. And you can be energetic, but there's just an honesty that you don't need to, work it so much. So I tried to abandon that as soon as I could. But I think that's the difference. There's just and look, I have so much respect for stand-ups, so much respect. And I watched, as of late, I watch so much stand-up comedy because I think I'd like to, I think it's like something on my bucket list that I'd like to go and try, because you want to, it's different to make your friends laugh. You've got to make that room be your friends and all have something in common and laugh with you, right?
Right.
And of course, there's so much humor right now in being older, and then a world out there being younger. And I think I've always been silly. So I've never had a problem really with like meshing with young people. I mean, young people kind of like me, but I know how they feel when you see old people, like, because that's like somebody flipping to the end of the book and showing you the ending. It's like, I don't want, that's the way it was for me. It's like, I don't want to see old people because that's where I'm going to be there soon enough. You know what I mean? And even old people don't like looking at old people because it's like, oh my God, I'm old. Why am I with you? So we've got to spread out. They're going to disperse. But so I don't know. I watch these stand-ups and I go, yeah, there's so many little moments I'd love to talk about. So I don't know, maybe. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for stand-up as well. But there's something about being improv where you got to give and take, and you got to listen too. Um, so a lot of people think improv is just you keep talking, and it's kind of the opposite.
Right. It's more interpreting and understanding, right?
Yeah, and really, and the give and take, don't plan anything because you may have it all in your head planned, and then somebody comes out and in one line has altered everything right down to, who knows, maybe even the character you are in a heartbeat. So you just got to go. You just got to go with the flow. I had a chance to do, Ben does those Ben Schwartz and Friends things at
Right. Yeah.
yeah, the theater downtown, and then of course he travels now all over the country performing, and that was a lot of fun because I hadn't done it in a long time. When we were doing Space Force in the second season, he said, "Look, when we're wrapped, would you come and play with us at the Larago Theater? I think it's called." And I said, "Oh wow!" I couldn't say no to Ben, right? So it's like, "Yes, okay, yes, I will." And then it was like, "Geez, I haven't done this in like 30 years. What am I talking about? More than that, maybe. In my early 20s." But it was fun, and it's weird how the old muscles click in. Find an activity, do a little thing, and it's like, "Oh, okay, all right." So that was a fun experience.
Oh, you gotta love that. And like I just saw Ben actually, not in person, but I saw him in God, I'm suddenly blanking on it. Oh, Renfield.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that?
I did see it, and he plays one of the villains, sort
Yeah.
of kind of someone trying to prove himself, and he plays that overgrown kind of man child so well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still manages to make you feel sorry for him at times, even though
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
pitiful.
And on well, I might have said this when I talked to you last, but when in Space Force in that second season, we were up in Vancouver, and because of COVID, we all had to stay together, right? We couldn't go out and do things. So as a group, we would meet for Saturday night dinners, and then we would go back to Ben Schwartz's hotel, because in the hotel they had a screening room. So we would go and we would watch movies after dinner. We'd go and watch movies on Sunday night. It was so fun.
Oh, that's
I missed them. I missed them all so much, and so it was tremendous fun. Well, we would talk. I think one night, maybe a couple of weekends in a row, we did Nicolas Cage movies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the movies that we watched for sure was the one with John Malkovich, which was The Rock, right?
Or The Rock, or
No, Con Air.
Con
It was
Air.
Con
Yes.
Air.
Yes. Welcome to Con Air.
Yeah. So we go there now, and we asked Malkovich to come with us and come and watch. So he organized this dinner. John did. It was beautiful at his hotel, and then we went over and we all watched Con Air with him. And so we would keep stopping and starting because we would say to him, okay, that moment, was that in the script, or did you guys make that up, or tell us about this? Or there was like some other moment where, okay, was that real or was that CGI? Because it was back at the kind of the beginning when they started to play with. So he was so gracious with on all this. He told us so many stories. And then sometimes he would stop the machine and say, okay, here, this guy came in, and then, you know, he go off. And it was so much fun. So the weird thing about Reinfeld was, or Renfeld, I'm not sure how you say it, but the cool thing about that was that Ben gets cast in a movie with Nicolas Cage after us watching those times up in things. So
that was after. No way.
Yeah, it was after. So that was so fun. He, you know, so he sent us some pictures of him and Nick Cage just chilling in their wardrobe, which is in their wake up, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, he willed it into existence.
And yes. Yep.
So cool. Yeah, it's like how often do you get live commentary of a film by an actor, no less John Malkovich?
No less John Malkovich, exactly. And there's a guy that, my goodness, you know, I was so kind of anxious to meet him. What's he going to be like? Is this going to be pins and needles, you know, anxiety time? And he couldn't have been sweeter, and such a good actor. And he's so generous with stories and anything, you know. He's just a really great guy, loves to laugh, play games, the whole deal. It was so fun. And that's John Malkovich, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was such a treat for all of us.
Yeah, it's I mean, he's got a or he's got a movie named after him. Being John Malkovich. I mean, he's that guy. He's that big of a deal.
Yep, for sure.
And sort of, I guess, among every industry, it's like, I guess we could thank Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman for that.
Wow, he
was doing it way before them. Yeah.
And he'd have a neat thing with his script that I remember saying one day, "Can I ask you about this? What you've got going here?" Because he had every page with little tags on it of different colors.
Yeah.
Which were different scenes, and then he had colors for different shows, and then he had things for moments along this one other side, because we did it in those, you know how they cross block now, block and shoot. Now, you know, you'll do in a span of 3 months, you'll do 4 shows or 3 shows, then you'll get them done and move on. I guess it, you know, it saves money, but you can literally be between 4 and 5 shows in one day. So you really got to keep track of where you are, not only in the episode, but in the arc of the entire series, right? So John's was very elaborate. And I remember asking him that the first season, when we were in LA. He had just a giant binder, and he had all these things, and it was amazing, just amazing. Because I guess from that, being as studious as he was, it freed him up acting wise, because he always knew exactly where he was in the plot of the story.
Damn, that's,
you know, in the grand scheme of things. So that was impressive to see.
I bet. Shit, that's brilliant. And it makes me wonder, like, how do you not develop dissociative identity disorder when you've got that many projects going on at once? So it's for any actor like you. It's like, how do you stay sane?
It's, well, you just kind of I just know from my point of view, it's just minimize the day. Just this is what we're doing tomorrow, and then you cut it down even less than that. You go, okay, this is what we're doing before lunch. So you look at everything before lunch, and maybe 2 or 3 scenes, right? And it's like you spend time learning the entire day, but this is what we're doing before lunch. Okay, gone now. And you got to be like a baseball player. Hopefully the scene went great, but if it didn't in your mind, you did as best you could. Leave it now. You got to go on. You can't sulk. You got to go into the next thing. And then you look during lunch, you look into what's after lunch. I got 2 or 3 scenes after lunch. Here we go. But then gradually in between those scenes of actually shooting it, when they give you a break to change the angle and you go back to your seat, now you're looking at tomorrow's, right? So you're popping ahead to tomorrow's to get familiar with that. So it's agonizing sometimes at the time, but when you look back on it, it's kind of romantic. I mean, you might not get home till 8 or 9 o'clock, or well, what am I saying? 9 or 10 o'clock. And then you have a shower and get the makeup off, and then, okay, let's start on tomorrow again. You know, the stuff before lunch in particular. And you're up till like 12:31 in the morning, and then call time is 6, and away you go. So it's just, you get on that train and you don't get off till you're done. But it's exhilarating. And then when the weekend comes, you go out and you do, karaoke and have a great dinner and see movies with John Malkovich.
Yes. That's sounds like a solid weekend.
Yeah.
And speaking of solid weekends, I think one of the most fond memories I have is of Claire and Bonnie visiting the boys in Florence, and just being able to travel with them and spend time with them, and all the dinners. It was awesome. Yeah,
that's so cool. That's so cool to hear you say that. That's so wonderful. That's so nice. It was special for them too,
Yeah, I'm glad to hear. I have this one story of, I think I was like sick, and me, Taylor, and Evan. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Lion. Yeah, so we're in three corners of one kind of small bedroom. This is a hostel turned sort of housing situation for students that went to Gonzaga, the exchange program. So we're right in the middle of Florence. And anyways, Bonnie, we had already met, but she comes in and sits down on my bed, and she tells me the story of when she was a nurse, and she was on the job one time, and one of her patients told her, I think they got to talking, and Bonnie told her that her dream is to become an actress, and the nurse was like, do it, don't wait on it. And Bonnie, I guess, quit her job as a nurse and went into acting, and never forgot that conversation. And then she told me, she was like, hey, if you want to do anything creative, just do it. And if you want to be an actor, you've got the face for acting. But luckily, I mean, for me, not luckily, but I wouldn't want to be in the spotlight. It's I don't know. I think it would be exhilarating, like you're saying, to be kind of a public figure inevitably. But if I were to do anything, I would be like behind the scenes, working on a creative project. I just wouldn't have, be out there and the open. I'm kind of an introvert, so but a lot of actors are introverts.
Oh, well, can I tell you something? I'm the same way. It's like I kind of don't want the attention either. And sometimes when you do obviously when you do the scenes, you shoot the master first, right? And then you go in on 2 shots and things like that. And I'm always fine with that. I enjoy that. We're gonna, 2 shots and stuff, great. And then they'll always say, then ultimately it's gonna be time for your close-up. And in my head, I'm always like, oh, you guys, you don't have to do a close-up on me. It's just, it's not, please. I don't want, and it's like, Don, we don't have a choice. We have to do one. Yeah, I know, but don't feel like I want it. I don't want one. I'm happy with the 2 shot. I'm happy with the master. Don't take time for me, because then it's all the camera on you. You know what I mean? But I think I've learned after this long that really, if you want to be a big star, you got to want that camera on you like that, And it's like, I was fine. Well, I'll take a 2 shot. I'm good with the 2 shot. That's fine. Who wants to be in it with me?
And so, you and Bonnie kind of came up together. How did that creative collaboration begin?
Well, it started with Second City in Los Angeles when they formed a company.
Got it.
They wanted to have a company in LA, so they had to put together a cast. So usually it's not done like that. They never throw a cast together. But in this instance, they did, and they took 3 or 4 people from Chicago and took 3 or 4 people from Toronto, and threw us together, and said, okay, you're going to be the LA company. And so we performed in Santa Monica at the Mayfair Theater, which was this beautiful old ornate theater. It had balconies and everything like that. But we were always saying, this is cabaret. This is like cabaret theater. We don't need balconies and trap doors and things like that. We just need like a big square box and tables for people to put their drinks on, right? Mm-hmm. But that's what happened. And they wanted to put their best foot forward, so they got this theater. It was just a little premature in that the rest of the area had, like, there's the big 3rd Street Promenade down there now in Santa Monica. It's huge. It's right beside, very close to where the theater was, but it wasn't finished yet. So we didn't have the traffic quite there yet. And then the other thing that was weird about it was, you do your improv show, and then in the third act, you do your set show, which is all derived from improv, but you set it, right? And then in the third act, you have a whole improv act where you make up new things, and the stuff you like, you keep tabs on. And when it comes time to put a new show together, you draw from those ones you like. But what we found in LA, which was so weird, and we were all finding this together, was the fact that, oh my gosh, when that would come time for after the second act, for the third act improv, a lot of the audience would leave. And you go, guys, you're missing perhaps what could be the most fun act of the show. And they will say, well, I got business in New York. I got to get up at 5. So everybody, because of the time change of doing with business in New York and things like that, nobody wanted to stay late in LA. They wanted to get out of there early, so they wouldn't stay much for the improv set. So I think that kind of hurt it too. But the bonus for me was meeting Bonnie, and we just hit it off right off the bat. We just hit it off, and we had a few scenes. One of them in particular was this date scene we had, and we would play every night so much with that, and it was so much fun. And then Bonnie and I decided to leave at the same time, Second City, because we wanted to, pursue more, because we'd been out of it. And I wanted to kind of I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to be out and try things. And Bonnie left too. And I thought, well, if Bonnie's leaving, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to stay, because that's who I really clicked with. And then I had another buddy from Toronto, John Hempel, who was going to head back to Toronto. So I thought, this is it. I'm done, which was all great. But then, Bonnie was so gracious. My goodness, she sold 2 series and did them, The Building and the Bonnie Hunt Show. And, I was lucky enough to be on those with her. And then we suddenly, in the second Bonnie Hunt show, she was a reporter, so she would do these remotes. So I would start going along with her when she would go back to Chicago and shoot these remotes for the show, because she played a news reporter. So we'd have to shoot little stuff like that and blend it into the sitcom story. So it was going on those trips that we started working behind the scenes a little more, behind the camera. But we had such a shorthand. I remember she was doing this one thing in a fast food store, and I'm not in it. I'm watching from behind the camera, but she's the server, right? She's at the counter. And I remember her talking about the thing. She's an incredible improviser, of course, as well. And she's talking about the different things they have on the menu to this one salesman. And I remember being by the camera, and all I did was I held up my wallet. I held it up so I knew she could see it. Yeah. And then I remember, didn't miss a beat. She goes, "Sir, do you have ID for the meal?" Yeah. And it was just, so we had that kind of yin and yang, you know what I mean? It was just, because she just got it. She just knew it. And from our time on stage, that's where you form a trust, right? When you're out there improvising with no net under you, and as an audience, you got to trust who you're out there with. And we completely trusted each other. So that's when that formed. And then I was lucky enough to work on Return to Me, the movie. We wrote that together, and Bonnie directed it and starred in it. And
yes.
And then we went on to
David Duchovny, Minnie Driver, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we did Life with Bonnie, that sitcom, where that was her and I creating it and doing it, and it was fun. And I didn't act in that, and I didn't miss it. I loved writing, and I loved being, an EP on it, and the editing process and all that stuff. And Bonnie was the flagship for it, of course, but I was in there, and of course learning so much. But that was so fun. And then the talk show was another entity onto its own. Her talk show, that was amazing too. What an amazing experience, because that was something where, of course, Bonnie always knew she wanted to. I'm not going to speak for her. She'd always mentioned doing a talk show would be fun, because she was such a great guest on Letterman, and even back to Johnny Carson. And I knew she wanted the shot at doing that. And I always thought, man, I want to be with her when she's doing the talk show. And but it was an amazing experience, because the workload's insane. You wouldn't think it, right? But there's so much creatively that goes into it, with 12 minutes of original material to start every show. And then sometimes, in 2 days you shoot 2 shows. On what was Monday, shoot 2 shows on Tuesday, 1 show Wednesday, and 2 shows Friday. So it's a relentless grind. But that was the closest we felt to being back at Second City. You know what I mean?
Great.
I
Yeah.
mean, there was actually some shows on a second show on a Friday in the afternoon where it's like, all right, Bond, I'll follow you. I'll help however you can, but you're going to be winging a lot of this. And it was exhilarating to us, especially when it turned out great, right?
Yes.
It would always freak the studio out because when they saw on paper what we had, is that's it. That's it. That's all you've got. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. And then we got to write remotes and shoot remotes and shoot. We would do sketches in the studio too to put into the show. It was almost really like a variety show that just aired in the afternoon, and people used to, our audience basically T-bowed it all the time, and we had 1 million people every day tune into that show religiously. But what sunk us there was was when I don't remember when the car business took the hit. And
Yes.
mortgage companies did the things they did. Remember, so many failed.
Yeah, 2008, right?
Yeah, exactly. 2008. That's exactly right. And that's what killed us, because so suddenly local affiliates had no more money. Or they didn't, I shouldn't say that. They didn't have as much money as they used to because all the car ads were pulled. Car advertisers weren't advertising as much. So the local channels who would have to pay the license fee didn't have the money for our show. So they play a rerun of, I Love Lucy or something. So that's what did us in, which is otherwise we'd still be doing it now. I mean, we were actually having, I don't know what you call them, like products coming to us because of the way Bonnie would so genuinely talk about their thing, their product. It might be through a family memory or a story she'd have, but you can't, I was going to say you can't buy stuff like that, but it's like nobody did it like her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, creating emotional connection.
Yeah. And so unfortunately, that show kind of got cut prematurely, as happens, it happens in the business. And Life with Bonnie was cut kind of prematurely too, because ABC said we don't have anything to play with it. And it's like, oh, so we're gonna play down, you've got nobody to play with us, so we're the one going. It never made sense, but it's show business, that's why there's that term.
Showbiz, yeah. The show must go on, even if it's another show, I guess.
Yeah, well, and I always take it like there's so many things you can't explain, and it's like that's why people say that's showbiz, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things in show business you can't explain. Show business is the only place where 2 + 2 can equal 5, because we'll just convince you with the right story it does, or we'll just tell you it does, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. But I don't really, through all that, they were all great experiences, and you learned a lot, and I've been really lucky to work with so many tremendous people. So
Yeah, and it all started with just like making funny, cool art with your friends and bonding and see, which one you click with creatively, and then it just, took off from there. I think that's the sort of takeaway I get is just keep, if you're going to do something, do it with people that you like, respect, connect with, have the same values. You can consider a friend, and like you're saying, have that yin and yang, almost like your creative thoughts are interconnected, to where like you're saying, when you go off script and you have a minimal script or something, and you can pull that off because you have that connection, that unspoken,
right,
we're just going to do it, we're going to wing it, and it works out.
And we were just exhilarated by that. It's like, okay, here we go. Now, obviously Bonnie's carrying the load because she's up on that desk, right? But up behind that desk for the talk show. But I mean, they're cutting to me because I'm right there with her. But it's like, here we go. Let's do it. Here we go. Ooh, here we go. But there's no greater high than when you pull it off, right? And everybody going, wow, that was fantastic. You guys were on fire. And it's like, yeah. When did you plan that gig? And it's like,
yeah.
About 10 seconds ago. And I remember telling one of the people on our cast, she was a producer and a writer, Ellie Bransick, and she was really great. And we just loved working with her too. We were so happy when she came on board. And she was from Conan O'Brien's camp, right?
Okay.
So we had her playing different things like these shows, like like an audience member who loves one of The Bachelor. The Bachelor, how you discuss The Bachelor, and so she'd come up and talk to Bonnie like one of the people on the show, works on the show, and then she'd talk about The Bachelor. And we were just telling her, just don't, Ellie was always like, what do I say? What do I say? And it was, so we just told her, don't worry about what you say. Screw that. Just talk, just be you. And it was like, okay, all right, okay. And she was great. She was fabulous. And we went to her a million times for, The Bachelorette, The Bachelor, any other show. So it was cool. It was cool. But you got to have that kind of gung ho attitude, right? It's like, let's do it. Let's just do it.
I'd imagine that's the kind of the same attitude you have to have when you're doing stand up, because you don't know what's going to hit or miss until you're on that stage, and you have to be able to like adapt. Okay, they're not laughing at my current initial jokes.
Right.
I have in the backup of the memory palace here that I can pull out of my, out of my ass or my magic hat.
Yep. And that's the thing that amazes me too, is how do you remember all that?
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got a friend in Canada. Ron James, who's like one of the premier stand-ups. And we were in Second City in Toronto together, right? Mm-hmm. But Ron was one of those guys who was just kind of a free spirit and kind of born for, maybe you should, it kind of evolved for him. He went from the evolution of the improv cast to kind of wanting to branch out. And it's like, I remember the first night he did stand-up and I went with him and I just said to him, my only note is you've got to leave room for people to laugh because you're really funny. And he's so articulate and he's like, it's the way he speaks in a routine is like a symphony. I kid you not. He's such a wordsmith, right? But it's like literally people weren't laughing. And it's like, no, the reason they weren't, Ron, is because they didn't have room. They didn't want to miss anything. If they laugh, they're going to miss the first 2 or 3 lines of your next thing. So give them moments where they can laugh. The reason I brought that up is, he plays these 5,000 seat auditoriums now. He's, like I said, a premier stand-up in Canada. It does really, really well. And he's so good. But he shows me pictures sometimes of backstage before he goes on. And I kid you not, Alex, there's got to be 45 pages lined up beside each other. There may even be more. I may be shortchanging him because I think he's out there for an hour and a half. So it would be 90 pages, right? But really, literally, it's just page after page after page. And he just keeps going through it, right? Just keeps running through it. But I'm always amazed. It's like, my God, Ron, when you're out there, yeah, sure, you got in your head, but what happens when you just blank? Right. You know what I mean? You're just blank. And it's like, that's when you're on the cliff and you just start talking. And then he says, then the rest of it, you'll find a place to pick it up and you can do it. And it's like, okay, all right. But that's the one thing that would kind of I'd be scared of, an hour and a half and you just, wow.
Yeah. It's no kidding. Me too. And it sounds like he's got it down to like an art form, down to as close of a science as you can be, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Some guys I don't like to jinx, right? Like I don't like to ask some people how do you ever blank in a scene? I don't like to ask them that because if they never did before, I'm afraid I'm going to plant a seed, So it's the same with like some people I know who might do stand-up. I don't want to ask them, how do you remember the lines? Because I don't want them suddenly not being able to remember the lines. Mm-hmm. That makes any sense. Yeah. So it's just like, I'll just wonder how they do it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And so like, I think, speaking of coming up in the business and making art with your friends, I think also when Claire and Bonnie visited, I think we were on the subject of storytelling. And so Bonnie kind of takes center stage at the dinner we're at, and she starts telling stories about when she was trying to make it as an actor with George Clooney and Richard Kind.
Yeah.
I think one of the stories she told is a story that George has told already, and it's the cat box story with Richard. Yeah. Which we thought was so fucking funny. And obviously, because who would do that? It's just like, it takes a lot of work to pull off a joke like that.
Yeah.
And then there was another time, I think she was like, they were messed up on something. I don't know. That part's not important, but they decided to mess with the guards in London or it was either
Oh,
that
right.
or some of the guards in Italy, and they pissed him off, and I think they got arrested, and just like
Wow.
spent the day there, because they were just,
Wow.
yeah, you're not allowed to fuck with the with the guard.
No. Yeah, so it's either going to be what, the guys at Buckingham Palace, or it's going to be that elite group at the Vatican. I forget what they're
Yeah.
called.
Oh, right. It could have been the Vatican. Yeah.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
are those guys? I can't remember what they're called, but it's an elite special force. And they've got to wear those incredible clown costumes too while they're doing it.
Oh, right.
It's like being,
Yes.
I don't know, 007 kind of guy, but you got to wear that. What?
Yeah. Yeah. How does anyone take you seriously?
Yeah.
But they do, I guess, take themselves seriously.
Very seriously. But how fun for you guys. I can't imagine what a perfect setting to be at.
Yeah.
Right? With Bonnie and having her tell the stories and Claire there. Or what, that's beautiful. That's so great. That's so great.
We even, I think they were going to visit George in Lake Como, and they invited us, and like we even had the chance to go there and I think spend a night or a day or a night there. And we were too tired because we had been traveling for hours on train to Cinque Terre from Florence, and you can't fly into Cinque Terre. You got to take the long train ride to the short train. We're going to the furthest island in Cinque Terre, so it was Monte Rosso, Al Mare, and we were just like, we're stuck here. It's raining. Let's just we'll say no. But I think we all regretted that later on, because that would have been a fun time, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But boy, all the traveling you guys did too. But that's what was so great about it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It really was. And we sort of like didn't really have a plan, kind of like improvising. Really, it's like real life, decisions. But you're applying it to like the improv technique. So you were just like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? We're here. Let's go rent an apartment for all of us. And it turns out we found like a really cheap apartment. And it's just things like that. Oh, this restaurant looks cool. Not having a set plan really. Saying it's exhilarating. Yeah.
And do you still look back at it as a very special time?
Oh yeah, studying abroad at college, it was such a special time. That getting to go abroad for 2 weeks in high school with my Italian class, and a couple vacations to Italy. I kind of have this love affair with Italy. I've been learning the language since I was 12 years old. So
have you really, huh?
School, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I minored in it and everything, and got into the National Honor Society, and was virtually fluent by the time I graduated. But it's been about 11, 12 years since I've spoken the language. So,
but you got to get back, right? You're going to go back at some
point. I really
point.
want to get back, and I have this dream of retiring there someday. Yeah.
Well, I hope that happens for you. I hope that happens. What a place to retire, huh?
I know it would be amazing, and I couldn't help but pick Florence if I had to go.
Yeah.
Again. As my main sort of objective, just revisit Florence and all the sites.
Oh wow. Yeah, I always you always think of past lives. Well, I can't say everybody does, but I always think if I had past lives, whether it's on my past, and I always thought I lived during the Roman times.
Oh really?
Yeah, I always did. I don't know why. I just always thought. And I remember when we were lucky enough to, in return to me, go to Rome to shoot for a couple of weeks. And I remember going to the Colosseum, and I remember touching certain, and I would touch any building, and a lot of older buildings in Rome, and I would touch it and going like, okay, it's been a long time since I've been here before. But I remember, did I touch that way back when? Right? Or I remember it just you wanted to think it felt familiar in a way, but I still am in awe of what they built when they built it, and the things they invented.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
So who do you think you were? Were you an athlete? Were you a gladiator? Were you an emperor? Or were you the owner of your local vomitorium?
Yeah. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. I used to run track, and I did very well in high school in track, and very well. But I didn't want to do it in university because I said, you know what, you're running against the clock. That's what you're running against. Really, I'm not running against other people. I'm running against the clock. The clock, and the clock is never affected by the weather. The clock is never affected by girlfriend problems or anything like that. No problems at home. It's just the clock. And I start here and I run as fast as I can and I make sure I'm the first guy back. It's like very simple, right? Because when I used to play football, I was a wide receiver and a running back, but they used to switch me in and out every other play.
Yeah.
And I would come in with the play from the coach, right?
Yeah.
But I'd get halfway out and I would forget what the play was that he called.
Oh.
Like, oh my God. So now I'm still running to the huddle going, okay, well, what do you think he called? Well, he probably maybe called this. It's second down with 8 to go. He's probably called this. So I go in the huddle and very confidently say a play. But of course, you'd see the coach on the side after we'd run it with the arms up in the air and mad as hell, cursing at me. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I forgot what the thing was. So the reason I say that I did well at track because there's no plays in track, right?
Yes.
Right. Or like in basketball, same thing. Even in baseball, no plays. Or hockey for sure. You just start here, run as fast as you can and make sure you're the first guy back here. Okay, got it. And I did that really well. So I don't know, maybe I was a meager athlete or something, or I don't think it was anything grand. The grand part for me, I think, comes in my fear of heights. So I've always thought with my fear of heights that my past life I was in one of the tall ships, right? Okay. And I'm not going to say I'm like Christopher Columbus or anything, but I'm on the tall ship and I'm way up at the mast. Remember the crow's nests they'd have at the mast?
Yeah.
So I think, that thing gets rocking like 10 feet back and forth, can be even worse. And I think something might have happened that I fell out of the crow's nest, landed on the deck and was killed. And that's why I'm painfully afraid of heights. Right. So it's all that kind of stuff. And then I somewhere, so that's what was funny about Space Force is somewhere in my past, I would think I was a space astronaut. Now, of course, I was born in 56. So I think the space program happened after that where they had astronauts. But no matter what I do, when it's an anxious time, and I've engraved it, I haven't done it so much with Taylor, but certainly have with our daughter Wyatt. Whereas when it's something gets really busy and technical and anxious, I always say, just be like the astronauts. I mean, they're just cool and calm and collective. They don't show their emotion. They don't let the problem work them like Apollo 13, that great true story, which is amazing to me. Yeah. But that's the other occupation I think of all the time. And then the other thing was I would always think going to work acting wise, I think, don't be nervous. I mean, you should be nervous if you've got to step into a ring with Muhammad Ali and box around with him. Then you could be nervous. But you're just going to act. You're not going to die. You're going to leave there intact. So all a little mind games.
You don't, you've literally nothing to lose. Nothing's gonna change if you get, if there's a no, or you go to audition for something and it's nothing. You're in the same exact situation as you were when you entered. So it's really, that's a good way to look at it. I don't know as an astronaut if I'd be so relaxed, because I probably get cabin fever after about 10 minutes and have to locked in my room, because you're in the claustrophobia for me would set in. So I don't know what that informs me about my past life. Maybe drowned or something, or
and then when you see inside those capsules, it's not like they're built for comfort. They're not built for comfort. It's not like there's bucket seats and the headrests and the whole thing. It's like, wow, this is 100% work, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. You see some of those things, but I don't know why I always do that. But you're right. With the spaceship, it's not like you can say, "Is there a front porch I can go sit on for a while?" But I guess it's the problem solving that I admire so much, because that movie was like, man, and then just loosely, just manually setting that mark to get back into the atmosphere. I mean, come on, and lock.
Oh my God, I know.
I know.
Was that Ron Howard, I think?
Yeah. Apollo 13.
And if you were the masked guy, then and you fell off, you didn't even get to say "Land Ho." I mean, shit.
Yeah, maybe that's what they heard. They heard me yell something, but was it land ho, or was he saying, "Oh no"?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said, "Oh no." Oh, really? So he didn't see land. Well, we'll never know. But I think he said, "Oh no," because he's dead. He's lying on cracked his skull wide open. Um, I can't. Can you imagine what kind of a wild ride that would be up there?
Oh my God, no, I couldn't. It would just be, you'd have to create a nook for yourself, maybe get like a portrait of your family, but
Yeah,
tie it to one of the, a
yeah,
makeshift sort of office.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
basically a bird's nest.
It really, God, that's so true. That's so
Um,
true.
but yeah, just a couple more questions. So Zootopia plus, you reprised your character as Stu Hops from the original Zootopia. So I've heard stories about how Disney is so secretive it can seem like the CIA sometimes. I think Freddie Prinze Jr. told me that because he worked on Star Wars Rebels and
Oh
came
wow.
back for a voiceover for The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But so what was it like for you? What was there that level of secrecy, or is that more geared towards like Marvel and Star Wars kind of stuff?
Well, I think it was I mean for that it was kind of like you never saw the material until just before you went in the next day. And it's just, I don't know, there's kind of a respect there that you just don't talk about it. Just don't give away anything. And I think they're pretty trusting of it. Um, Bonnie and I had a neat experience though. We did some writing additional material for Cars.
Yeah.
And so we got to, because Bonnie was good friends with John Lasseter, and we got to fly up in this jet, and we got to see the campus where they work and everything like that. Being in the creative room, so to speak, with all the storyboard, and they talked us through the entire thing of Cars and the whole story, and it was really amazing. And then they gave us a computer, and then sent us back home. And so we would write, and it was kind of on our own schedule, but we'd sit down and we'd write, and then it was weird for a little while because we'd be a couple of days where we'd write, and then maybe the third day or something, somebody would call and just check in, how's it going, and that, and then when we got off the phone, we paused, and it's like, how do they know about that? You know, how do they know we wrote that on Tuesday? And it turns out that the computer that they'd given us, you know,
Oh,
it was kind of their computer, so to speak. So they knew when we sat down, what we did that day, and it
wow.
was so funny because when we were done, somebody showed up at Bonnie's front door, and you fold up a laptop and you give it back to them. And this person drove it up to Palo Alto, or San Francisco area where their headquarters were. But it was funny, because we'd be talking on the phone and they would mention this and that, and we think, yeah, good. Oh, well, that's great. You like it. That's tremendous. And then, okay, we'll see you. We'll talk next week. Okay, good. Talk next week. Wait,
Wow.
wait a
Yeah,
second.
it's,
Yeah, we worked on Monday. We didn't work on Tuesday. So it was Monday we said this. We're talking to them on Thursday. How is that possible? You
yeah.
know? And then
Wow.
it was like, oh my God,
Yeah,
they're hooked in.
they're going Orwellian on us.
Yeah.
Uh,
But so anyway, with that was that came to mind, that story about the computer. But really it's we're just pretty not secretive, but you don't let the cat out of the bag. They've all worked so hard. And a lot of times too, right? You're doing the dialogue before the end piece is finished,
mhm.
because you have to get dialogue first in an animated project. So there's really not a lot to see yet.
Mm.
And you just, of course, are privy to what you guys do, your material, not other cast members. So
Yeah.
it's not too hard keeping things quiet.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but other things, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of. I can't imagine some of the Marvel stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, Definitely. I've seen videos of like them slip a little bit and giving too much information, and it's like they always say,
yeah,
Kevin Feige, these or Feige, I think I don't,
uh,
it's how you pronounce his last name. The Marvel guy is like, you'll get a text from him as soon as you say something a little too spoiler in the press, and it's like,
wow.
same with Kathleen Kennedy. It's
Wow.
because those are such massive IPs, I guess,
Yeah.
that have been existing for decades. So I guess I could see why that it would be so sort of secretive. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's funny that you say you wrote some additional material for Cars, because so I was curious, did you write any lines for Owen Wilson's character?
Oh, I don't specifically remember. Boy, that was a while ago. But I think we did. Yeah, I think there might have been some stuff in there.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, guy used to write Wes Anderson films, and now you're writing for him. That's a pretty cool full circle thing.
Really, really.
And you also mentioned working with Minnie Driver and Return to Me. She first thing that comes to mind for me is Good Will Hunting. Did she ever share any stories about working with Gus, and specifically like Elliott Smith, who's one of my favorite artists? That was a movie that really brought him onto the map.
Oh, right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, Minnie was great. But I didn't really get to talk as much as I'd like to with some of them, just because in the capacity as a writer, you didn't get to hang out quite as often like you would actor wise.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I was kind of with Bonnie just all the time, and which was a great experience anyway. But I know I didn't get to hang that much. David was a lot of fun to company, because he would always we'd kind of he would get all these clothes, right, sent to him, like Adidas and Nike, with Nike, all these different kind of blazers and windbreakers and slacks and everything, and running shoes, millions of running shoes. And so he would give me, like, he'd always say, Don, do you want some? Do you want some shoes? Do you want something? And I would always say, yeah, sure, great. And the joke was that I would put it on and he would say, oh, that looks good on you. And I would always say, I can wear anything. So that became a runner through the rest of the, while we're shooting the rest of the movie. It's like, I can wear anything. You look good in that. I can wear anything. But he literally did give me like dozens of shoes and jackets and slacks, and it was fantastic. Cool. And when he came to when he did the talk show, and so this is like, I don't know, 12 years later. Yeah, we did 2008, sorry. When he came on the talk show, he came out with an extra pair of shoes. He came out with a pair of shoes for me, and he said, oh, Don, what you're wearing looks good. And I said, oh, I can wear anything. We went right back to it. But he's a great guy. Minnie was great too. But I didn't get to hang. Like Robert Loggia was a great guy too. Remember, one of the older.
Robert Loggia.
Yeah, and of course, oh my gosh, All in the Family. All in the Family. Yeah. An iconic sitcom.
Yes.
Carol. Gee whiz. This will be fun. This will fill up a lot of time if you need time. Just get an old guy on to remember not.
Okay, hold on.
Oh yeah, thanks. There you go.
All right.
All in the Family, and it's the patriarch guy. It's the boss. It's the guy who. Carol.
Not obviously not Robert. Carol O'Connor.
Carol O'Connor, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Carol. Yeah, but so he was iconic from All in the Family, right? Just iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys were amazing to watch as well, and great actors, just great actors. But it was that was really like, we would always joke too. There was the bus for the actors, and then there was the bus for the people behind the crew, behind the camera. So we'd always split at the end of a day. But it was fun. It was great. And Chicago was great in the summertime.
Oh, I bet. My friend lives there, and he keeps telling me to come out and visit. And I'm thinking of this summer. It's probably the right time to do it. Just
it's the best time to go. Definitely go.
Got someone living there who can show you around and all that stuff.
Big time. It's a great city. It's a great city.
So
Toronto and Chicago are sister cities, actually.
Are they really? Okay,
Yeah.
that makes
And
a
they're
lot
very
of
they're
sense.
very similar. They're very similar. Chicago,
That
I like Chicago a lot too.
Second City was originated in Chicago, or was it
Yeah, yeah,
Canada? Okay.
yeah. And then Toronto, you're not too long after, but years after.
So that's why it moved to Toronto, is because they're sister cities, or
Probably, yeah,
one
yeah,
of the reasons, probably.
yeah. Could be.
Um, and you mentioned, you like you used to do track, and you got some running shoes from David Duchovny. So I don't know if you were familiar with like track culture. I think back when you were probably doing track, Steve Prefontaine.
So, oh, the name, sure, yeah.
Yeah, he was this.
So high was he a high jumper?
He was a long distance runner from
Okay, yeah.
Eugene, Oregon. They made a movie about him, Prefontaine and Without Limits. Jared Leto played him, and then Billy Crudup
Mhm.
played him again.
Wow.
But yeah, he's my first cousin.
Oh, wow.
Two generations out. Yeah, we we share a grandmother. To me, it's my great grandmother. It's his grandmother. But
Wow.
yeah, and so I've always been fascinated by running culture, and just really into running.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I ran the 400 and the 800 meters, and
Okay.
I love the 400 meters because it's like you're going at about 95% that first lap, and then the second lap 100%. It's a wicked race to run.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite race, and I wanted to run the 200, but we had too many guys at the 200 already, so the coach made me run the 800 as well. But I was a champion in both kind of races, and the eight, and I happened to have a guy on my team. We were 1 and 2 in the city, and
Yeah.
so it always made you could never take a practice off because I was running my competition all the time, right?
Right.
Joe Wilson. So he ran the 800, and I think he ran the 400 well, or he might have run the 1600, the 800 and the 1600.
Wow.
But yeah, so in the 800 we always ran opposite each other. But the 400 I love because it was most like a racehorse too. It's like once around the track, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like it's great. And
That,
the 800 is the one where you do 2 laps,
it,
obviously, and that.
that's the most brutal. I think that's probably one of the most brutal races in track, and cross country, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I ran cross country too before I got into football. But my first 2 years of high school, I ran cross country in the fall, and then did track in the summer. And then in the winter, we would run indoor track, and that I did
Oh,
all the way through senior year.
wow.
But that was even weirder because the indoor tracks were 200 meters, right? So
Oh,
when you did a 400, you did two, as opposed to doing
oh,
one. And the corners were the ends were really banked, a real
oh.
steep bank to them. So you'd be running, 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 and you're like this, and you're up like this. It was kind of fun, but it was very weird. And I remember the smell. But there was a great coach we had at the time in the private track stuff, which was Charlie Francis. I don't know if you remember Charlie Francis. Well, he
Huh.
was a Canadian guy, and you're not Canadian, are you? So
Not
you're
familiar. No.
okay. Yeah, because it was, and I don't know why the name Hugh Spooner is popping into my head.
Huh.
Well, Charlie Francis coached Ben Johnson, who was the 100
Oh,
meter gold medalist, but he lost it, right, because of the drugs.
okay. Right, right, right. That's
Yeah, so
wow. Yeah.
I don't know I don't think I could run that far now.
Yeah, I'm currently training for a marathon in
Wow.
July. This would be my third full marathon, but I've run a bunch of half marathons in the last 3 years. It's just sort of, yeah, uh, something that I really love, and you
That's
know,
great.
just trying to beat my PR, and that's about it, and just have
Oh,
fun with it. And
that's so good.
you get a couple hours to go on a run, and it's just very meditative.
I was just going to say that to you. It
Yeah,
is, isn't it?
it really is.
Isn't
Yeah.
it amazing when you get into that zone
Yes.
and you really feel, and it's from cross country that I remember this, but I mean, you just get into that zone and it's like you feel like you can run forever,
Yeah.
and it's not taking any toll on your body. Everything's moving in sync, nice and smooth. And it's just, I remember this is cross country, but just the way you move, the fastest 400 I ever ran was a good time. It was 47.2, right? That's a really good time. But you know what? It never felt like my fastest race, which I tell people was always really weird but everything was in sync. Everything was moving nice, just completely synchronized at ease. And then it was like, when I finished, I was like, oh my God, that's the fastest time I've ever had. And it felt like one of my slower races. But it's then like you say, and like you say with the marathons, you hit that point.
Yes.
And doesn't it mentally just wipe the slate clean so nice?
Oh, it totally does. And I know what you mean. It's like sometimes when your body is tired, you feel like you gave it all and you're like, that's got to be my best time by far. And it's like, not even close to your personal bests.
Right.
Because your body is tired. But then, like you're saying, you get to that sweet spot to where you're like, you set a PR and you didn't even realize it because your body is working like such a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
I love that too.
I know. And boy, that's a great thing for you to do. That is a great thing for you to do.
Yeah, it's fun. It's nice. I don't know if I would have been, had been interested in it if I wasn't related to Prefontaine.
Wow,
But
what a person
also,
to be related.
He's French Canadian. His family comes from Canada. So
yeah,
I'm wondering if I could get dual citizenship. Maybe I think I have some family members there.
Right.
But, yeah. I'm more interested in the Italy dual citizenship. I got to find a way to marry an Italian woman or something. I don't know.
I'll put that in the universe for you. I'll definitely put that in the universe for you. That's fantastic.
So final question, Don. What's next for you? I know we talked about Family Guy, or not Family Guy, but Ted, by Seth MacFarlane, the Family Guy creator. Do you have any exciting projects that you want to promote, looking on the horizon? And also, I'm curious, what would your dream project be if you haven't already had one?
Well, that's interesting. So here's in a weird way what my dream project would be, because I've always wanted to do it, and I'm halfway done, and it's not oddly enough, it's not a film or anything like that. I always wanted to write a book, right?
Yeah.
And so it's something, there's obviously downtime if you're not writing something else, or if you're not acting in something, there's still downtime. So for years, I dabbled with this book, and I got it done a few years back, but I just kind of tucked it away. And now slowly I've had a few people read it and they're going, oh God, that's really good. That's really good. And it's like, I want to get it published. Now, I don't know I know the times have changed. I know that, they're self-publishing now and things like that. But in a weird way, I kind of like to do that. And it's not an autobiographical book in any way. I've got a couple of buddies who wrote autobiographies and that, but this is just a fictional story. And I think it's kind of funny and silly and dramatic and heroic. But I think it stems from all the Christopher Guest films that were like, it kind of, and the reason I say that is it's not a real, like the premise is this, let's see, it's funny, I don't know how to.
Like it's not quite reality. It's
yeah, it's woven into historic fact.
Okay.
So this story is about this expedition to the top of Mount Everest at the beginning of World War II that changed the course of the war.
Huh. Okay.
And so
watch this real quick. Keep going, please.
Yeah, so it's woven into historical fact. It's woven into actual timeline of World War II, but all the characters are fictitious, because it always intrigued me that when Hitler started the Luftwaffe, the Battle of Britain, right?
Right.
The big thing was, why didn't he finish it? Why did he not finish? Why didn't he finish attacking and decimating Britain, conquering it? And then his plan was to use Britain as like a launching pad to get to North America, right? But for some reason, he didn't continue with that. And it's like, why? Why didn't he continue with that? So that's what this book answers. Is that in a funny way. And I just got a tour of your place while you were doing that.
Yeah. You
That's
probably
amazing.
saw some of my other pictures.
Holy moly. What a cool pad, as they say.
Right. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Let's see. Boom. Boom. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, me. Yeah.
Okay, good. We are plugged in for the final moments. No, you didn't even see my my little nook. Hold on. This is my desk,
Wow.
writing desk, and then those are like more shelves of just
Wow.
ephemera I've collected over the years.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so that book sounds amazing. I love historical fiction. Uh just incredible. And so that would be your dream project as well as something that
That'd be a
is
dream project. And then, of course, I'm still writing, and I've written a couple of pilots, and so one was in the midst of it had been packaged, but it's got with the writer strike now, everything's kind of on hold.
right.
So you kind of just stop, because you don't want it to be, by the time the strike's over, you don't want it to be an old story or feel like an old story, because everyone will write during the time off, and then they'll come out. You're gonna see an onslaught of all these new projects, and then slowly the ones they were almost about to develop before the strike feel like old news. So there's that dance. So it's like, okay, we'll just wait. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just I do so enjoy writing. I really do. I can hardly wait to get to the computer in the morning, and I'll do it all day if somebody doesn't stop me.
Oh
But it's
yeah.
always been great. It's been a great thing to have on the set, because sometimes they change the order of a scene, and sorry, we're going to do this scene first. It's going to be about an hour or so. Fine, I don't care. I'll work. And away you go.
Yeah, I so enjoy it too, because it's, no matter what, it's therapeutic. That's what it is to me, and
Yep.
it's like gives you legitimate joy. So I mean, it doesn't even matter to me if anything ever gets published, obviously aside from my journalism, because I'm just it's for the fun of it, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be able to create worlds and characters and arcs, it's just
It really is a total escape, right?
Total
Total
escape.
escape. I know.
So would you, I mean, I figure you could probably submit it to like your agent, who can get it to a literary agent, right?
Right.
But would you do the self-publishing, which I heard is, you get a
What have
little
you heard about
more
that?
I think you get a little bit more of like the percentage of sales, as opposed to going through like a literary agent or a
Right.
publishing house.
Right.
So yeah, I know the benefits. There's pros and cons of either, but who knows?
Yeah, and I know there's never money in a book, but it's just, for me, it's just, I don't know. There's something about that feeling. Yeah, I wrote this book. You know what I think it's from?
Yeah.
My English teacher in grade 8 or 9, Mrs. Ingram, and I would write. I always had a good imagination, right? So I would write these essays, and I'd get them back, and it'd be like an F, and it's like, oh, well, wow, what's going on here? And it's like, grammatically, I was a mess. Grammatically, I don't know how to write the fundamental sentence, because I would rewrite it again, and then I'd look, and she gave me an E. And then I rewrote it again. I remember this, and I got a D minus. And so I asked her, I said, okay, let's just cut to the chase. What's a pass? And she goes, well, a D minus is 50. I said, okay, I'll take it. I'm not reading. And I always, a stupid kid, I always thought I was so smart, right? And I wasn't. I never learned the proper grammar. So that's what I've had to teach myself. They always say that 10,000. So that, scripts are different. Scripts, people don't, right? People talk differently with nuances and things like that.
Different language. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I can get away with writing scripts, but writing a book, that was different. So I said, well, I'm going to have my style. And my style is going to be very conversationally, and it's going to be like a nice, pleasant read, because everyone's always said, oh, it's an easy read. It's an easy read. So that's the way my grammar is. But, and I believe the story is quite imaginative, but I do it maybe out of thinking back to Mrs. Ingram and wanting to, I'll send her a copy. Hey, look at this. the F boy wrote this. Hopefully she's still alive.
And did you have to do a lot of historical research for that one?
Tons. Yeah. But I'm a huge fan of World War II stuff.
There you go. Yeah.
And so I've got all these books of and they're pretty fantastic. The Life collection of World War II with photos is amazing. And they've also got ones which is a day-to-day breakdown of what happened in the war. Wow. And that's where I was able to hook up why Hitler, because suddenly Hitler stopped, like about 2 days shy of conquering Britain. He stopped. And nobody to this day knows why. They don't know why he stopped, why he pulled back. Yeah. And so my thing in this book was that, his intent with the expedition up Everest was to set up a satellite dish on the top of Mount Everest that would piggyback all the Allies' communications. Wow. And all the enemy's communications, so that he could be there before they were, or he could plan accordingly and thusly conquer the world. And he set up this little expedition of misfits. He catered to this one British climber who was the greatest of his lifetime, but he never got to the top of Everest, and it always hurt his ego. So they went to him, but he's far past his prime. But they went to him and say, "Would you lead us?" Then they got a couple of other people who were kind of put in place, and then they put one spy on board who was, once they got to the top, he was going to kill them all, set up the satellite, and it would work. But the old guy who they all thought was never going to make it, who was well past his prime, he and this other guy who was this young Canadian guy afraid of heights, and I pictured myself in that, who took the job because he was a photographer, right? And we wanted to make his career photographing the great Sir Walter Wingham making it to Everest. Those are the two guys who survive it to stop the satellite being put up. And so that's why Hitler never finished conquering Britain, and that otherwise he would have won the war most likely, because he almost had Europe. So sorry, long answer to your question. Yeah, I did a ton of research on that and Everest. In fact, this is a book I brought up for my granddaughter to look at because it's got great pictures. Everest. Wow. So I got a bunch of books on Everest, and then I just met this that in World War II, and then people keep popping into my life of late. And one of them was this nutritionist guy I know, and he's a doctor, and I had an Everest jacket on, and he said, "Oh, have you been?" Because people used to ask me that. It's got all the different routes that you can get. Like there's 4 different routes to the top on it. It says Everest, and then there's a thing on the back, Everest, and people go, "Oh, have you been?" And so cool. I remember one day I was with my wife and we were walking in with Claire, and somebody said, "Oh, have you been to Everest?" And I paused and I went, "Yeah, twice." Because I feel so bad saying no, it's just a jacket.
Then you have to go through the whole,
So it's just, yes, I couldn't believe it. You've been to Everest? Yes, twice. Now I could never get past the ice falls at ground level at base camp. I could never get past that. But anyway, my nutritionist saw my jacket and he said, "Oh, you've been to Everest?" And I went, No, I haven't been to Everest. He says, "Oh, I have." And it was like, "What?" Shit. No. And it was like, "You have?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Did you summit?" He goes, "Yes." And I went, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Wow. And so I proceeded to tell him about the book, right? And so he was like, "Oh, that's yeah." He said, "That sounds good. That sounds good." So he said, "I'll send you a picture." So he sent me a picture of him on the summit. And I said, "I'm going to use this." And he goes, "Why?" Because I said, "You've got your helmet and your visor on, which is completely like metallic and a mirror, right?" Mm-hmm. So I said, I can't see your face, but I can see the reflections of a few other people just getting to the summit in front of you. And I said, "I'm going to say that's me. I'm just going to say that's me." But he's a very cool guy. But he said it was a very spiritual moment getting up. He said it was everything you dreamed of. And he said, but then on the way back, we were 12 hours on the way back, and they had to stop and they had to rescue somebody who ended up dying.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he said it put them into real danger as far as that, I forget the zone they call it. When you stay too long, and because
hypothermia, or
say that again.
Hypothermia.
It is hypo. It's tied in with that, but your mind goes too, right?
Oh yeah, your mind starts to. You basically.
So you lose like your brain can't connect to your right knee or your left knee, and you can't lift, and you slowly you go to sleep pretty much is what happens.
Yeah.
And of course, all the cadavers you leave up there. And so he said what was weird was that we didn't make it, and then we literally leave him. But that's the rule, right? And and he said we were really almost left it too late, that we would have died up there too. So anyway, it was funny that you asked that question of something you wanted to do, because it rekindled the whole thing with me with this book. It's like, because who knows, it could be a movie someday or whatever, but that's kind of a little dream project in my head.
That's so cool. That would be a great like book to adapt into a movie or a TV series or whatever.
Right. I always thought if it could
potential.
if it couldn't be a movie, it could be a limited series, which people love now. 10
Yes.
episodes, start to finish. Yeah. So, but it's nice to hear you're interested historically in things like that too, because I had somebody once, an agent, tell me once, it's like, oh, nobody cares about World War II. And I said, I don't know. This was a few years ago. And I said, have you ever walked in a bookstore? Just take a bookstore, for example.
Yeah.
There's a whole section dedicated, to World War II still. Because in a weird way, it was a romantic war. And I don't use that term loosely. But the reason it was romantic was because there was a bad guy. And we knew who the bad guy was, right? Yeah. It's not like that anymore. The bad guy is a montage of characters. So, right, you can't just point a finger and say him. And that's why it's different, but yeah, so it's nice to hear you, because I believe that young people are too, because of the heroics of it, because of what they did and what they faced. It was crazy, and it was less covert. It was more in your face.
Exactly. And it's like you mentioned a bookstore. If you go on your TV too and you type in World War II movies, or if you have I think most remotes you can speak into, just say, bring me a World War II genre. It's like there are a lot of movies and TV shows still that come out about World War II because of the fact that there's an audience. So, I mean, it's, I don't think there will ever not be an audience for it for that reason. The romanticization of it, like you're saying. And also, we won, so that was great.
Yeah. And it really was the whole world against, him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just this insane person.
And it's so funny too, whenever I'm on the beach, and we don't get them all the time, but you get these great clouds, right? Mm-hmm. Some days form in the sky. And some days I'll look out at them and I'll just go in an instant. I'll go, oh, wow, that's like the South Pacific. And whenever I think of the South Pacific, I think of the war. I just, even like, Pearl Harbor and things like that. There was just those kind of clouds in the sky. Or imagine being sent off to the South Pacific to fight. And
I know.
Yeah.
I am thankful there's not a draft, but I have so much respect for people who volunteer.
I know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you do you die today? Am I going to die today? Is this the last time I'm going to wake up in a bed, in a cot, wherever, or also too, I think all the time about how many times they had to fight and do these things. And they're either really hungry just because they haven't eaten in days, or they've eaten so little, or you're in pain, right?
Right.
Oh man. And also too, I think because gratefully, but I was only brought up with the movies with it, but it's like, I always figure it's like, oh, it's just one battle, right? It's the Battle of Bulge, and then we get to go home, right? So we take that hill and we did it. So we got it, right, Sergeant? So we're done. Now we can go home. And it's like, no, you got to go again. We're going to find another battle and we're going to do it again. And it's like, that would drive me insane as well. I'd be nervous. I'd be crazy.
Oh, me too. Yeah. And the anticipation of a draft, it's like, am I going to get called? And just, you have no choice and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I interviewed this person named Hannah Bowman, the last sort of train of thought here, but I got to speak with her about that stuff. She volunteered with the Kurdish Women's Protection Units, which is the YPJ, kind of like a spinoff of the YPG. and so she fought in Syria on the ground to help refugees and so every day she's talking about how she would see her unit members die, and she would talk about the smell of like burning skin and that constant fear, and actually what it killing people and then having to sleep the very night and it got pretty serious, obviously. I mean, this is a very sobering sort of topic, but it's just like you hear firsthand accounts of that, and it really reminds you how brutal war is and how much of an effect it has on not just the people in it, but just like generations afterwards.
Yeah.
So
like I can't imagine what it's like taking aim at somebody who can't see you, right? And they're doing whatever they're doing, whether they're running from that place to this place or whatever, but you're going to end their life, right? And tell me that the karma doesn't go, well, I'm going to die soon because I just took somebody's life. And it's not even like it's hand-to-hand combat's one thing, but when they're over there, like it's just like it boggles my mind what that much. You want to say, I got to shoot you. You just so you know what's going to happen. I got to shoot you, but obviously you don't do things like that. But you just shoot and you see that person fall, and it's like, oh my God, I just ended that person's life. That person's dead because of me. Whoa. And you know what's weird too is like the Civil War. I have accidentally, because there's been a few projects I've worked on in the past that involved the Civil War, so we had to do research for it. And oh man, I have not enjoyed that at all. Remember in a weird way, with total respect, that I said like World War II is like romantic in a way. The Civil Wars were like just horrific, and there's nothing. First of all, you're fighting each other, which is the saddest part, right? And then the fact of how they fought these wars, like you literally line up in a line,
so bloody,
know. And they would tell us that the fields at night after a confrontation, all you'd hear is the moaning and the wailing of the guys who were hurt, who didn't die, right? But they were injured, and obviously badly and stuff. And then they said they would talk about, look at all the topics we've gone on in our speech, in our conversation here. But they would talk about like the wild boars coming out and eating these guys alive, and the screaming and the yelling you'd hear. I mean, we did that to ourselves.
I can't believe that. If World War II was we romanticized that, then I think the Civil War would be like the Dark Ages.
Right.
And like, who I think it was Stonewall Jackson who said, "Don't stop shooting until you see the whites of their eyes." I think that was a quote from him. But I mean, it's like you're so right. It was like you're just gonna charge and shoot and hope you don't get shot.
Right. And that while you're aiming at those guys across the line, somebody's aiming at you.
And then you got bayonets, so you got you're just and you're saying like they were so goddamn bloody, like Antietam, and what was the other really Bunker Hill and Antietam. I mean, those were some of the most bloodiest battles like ever in any war. So
but then you look at battles like Braveheart, right? Like I love Braveheart. Great film, great story, the whole thing. But you look at that, those guys charging, running against the other guys on the horses, and you just kind of collide, and imagine the fighting 360. Like I'm fighting here, but is somebody going to knife me in the back, right?
Right. You have to have some like, sixth sense almost. Like it's just like you feel it. But I would be the same way. It's like I could not fight 360. Nope.
No, and I just have a feeling, it's terrible to say, but I have a feeling in some of those battles, I might have run for the woods. You're not going to see me. Not going to see me anymore.
Could have been me too. Yeah, I'll see. Hey, we'll meet at such and such after this battle. Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, because I just can't do this. I just can't do it.
The same way. Well, Don, thank you so much for speaking with me. This is
My pleasure.
It's been a really great conversation that I enjoyed, and your answers obviously so generous. And
well, my pleasure. It's always great to chat with you, Alex. And
yeah,
I wish you the best of luck with everything. I know you'll do
likewise.
well. I know you'll do well, and good luck with the marathons.
Thank you so much, and good luck with your book. Yeah, you got me excited about it. So
good to hear. Good to hear.
Amazing.
All right, Alex, you be well.
You as well. Take care, Don.
You too. Bye.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Shattering Superstructure with Don Lake. I appreciate you tuning in again, and keep an eye out for the next episode. Thanks, listeners. This is Alex signing off.